Survivors ready! Direct from Hobart, it's time for you to hear those so-called experts from Survivor Oz talk about another reality show, despite the fact they always said they wouldn't ever talk about Survivor. It's The Amazing Race Oz, and here's your host,
Colin Hilding. Hello everybody, namaste, welcome back to The Amazing Race Oz, for the Canadian edition, still. We're still on the good stuff here, and we're back for episode 9 coverage. We're getting pretty close to the end, and we have almost everybody here today, or at least everybody who's still watching the season, so thanks to our dedicated recappers this week. Introducing first, he's a little bit under the weather, but we're hoping he's not going to be throwing up all over his laptop. Welcome back, Noah Groves.
Yeah, I'm not as bad as Sean is, but at least when I vomit, it's because I'm sick, not because I'm running.
Or breathing, or blinking, or whatever else.
Yeah, pretty much functioning. Yeah, I'm excited to be back after missing last week, but as you said, we're still on the good stuff, so let's go.
And also here we have New Jersey's #1 turbine tire / turbine model, Anthony Rossi's back.
Good to be back. I didn't know I was awarded so many titles since we last recorded.
Well, we've all seen your turbine tying skills, and it is quite impressive, and it's about time you get your recognition for it.
Oh, thank you.
And last but always least, that came out wrong. Always last but not.
Well, it wasn't so wishy-washy.
Always last but not least is what I meant to say. We have chili grinder extraordinaire, Jared Lubick.
Thank you.
That was a firm introduction. Thanks again for that. Let's jump into the episode. I'm digging myself in a hole here. We're still in India this week, which is nice to have 2 back-to-back legs, but completely different environments, not just staying in the same city. So we're off to Delhi, which is the capital of India, and we're instantly teased with a Dijon and Lalani storm that's apparently coming. According to Lalani, they've been fighting every single leg, but I don't know, I haven't noticed them fighting since maybe episode 2, so obviously we see the preview for next week. That's maybe a little bit ahead of for the prediction there. And once they get to Delhi, they go straight to the Gazipur fish market. I think I pronounced that right. Where they have to fill baskets with catfish that are alive and wiggling and jiggling and doing whatever catfish do, and they have to fill it up and deliver it. I personally thought this was one of the funniest challenges. It wasn't even a roadblock or detour, just a random challenge. One of the funniest random challenges I've seen in so long. Noah, what did you think of the fish market one?
I thought this episode was pretty lacking, but that was a funny moment from it. Probably the best bit, just because Brent and Sean were hilarious when they were talking about it's a snake or whatever they were saying. It was pretty funny. So I guess that was a good addition to it, but it was such a lackluster episode that I liked that, but it wasn't still, compared to some of the other episodes, it was still kind of a bit but it was funny though.
Yeah, I thought that it was one of the funniest episodes of the season. I do agree that the second half of the episode, once they got to the detour, there wasn't really much happening, but I loved this opening one and everything up through the roadblock. Rossi, what did you think of the fish market challenge?
This is the start of where I started to really dislike Brent and Sean.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, I did not care for them at all. They were just whiny and annoying.
Well, that's their character.
This is Nick and Sabrina all over.
Yeah, and they were terrible, so why would this be good?
Well, not everybody can show the personality of Hamilton Michaela, let's be honest.
And that's right.
I was about to say the personality of Anthony Rossi.
Jared, are you siding with Noah or are you siding with Rossi on this one?
I think I'm siding with Noah on this one. I thought all the teams kind of had really good moments in this, and I liked there was kind of a steep learning curve to, oh, wait, we can't just actually pick these catfish up by our hands. We have to kind of scoop them up with the basket. And I think catfish should be on infomercials as like the new and improved floor cleaners. Because seriously, like once they jumped out of the basket, that thing was just like mopping up everywhere.
They could really move. I loved Dijon and Lalani having to chase these things down. They actually seemed to be enjoying it instead of just stressing out, which was kind of funny. Also, is this the closest we're going to get to Opie doing a water challenge?
I don't do water.
He even had one of those. He's like, I can't hold on to fish. Like, oh, it's...
There was this whole episode. I don't tie turbans.
Yeah.
I don't grind chilies.
Yeah,
other people don't do things too, Opie.
We were talking about that last week, that Opie's just sort of become the guy who's negative on everything. Like, I don't think there's many people on The Amazing Race who are scooping up live catfish or grinding chili, so Opie's kind of stating the obvious, but kind of off the Opie train here. Sean, I definitely think, had the best freak out ever. Like, I don't know if... I guess Sabrina in episode 1 was pretty good too, but Sean's freak out was just classic. After that, they get to ride in a tuk-tuk. They get to take the tuk-tuk to a turban...
That was such confidence.
Take a tuk-tuk to a turban roadblock. We had Brent and Sean. We should talk about this individually. Is there any limit to what will make Sean vomit on this season? Noah?
That was probably the highlight of the episode, just the vomiting, and in the middle of India just made it even better, but I hope we see more of that before the season's end.
And then they actually had to stop the cab to clean it up. That's what was really good, because he just kept saying, bleh, and then it's like, no, it's okay, keep going, bleh. And it's like, oh, it's okay, he does it all the time. And then, he has to stop and clean the cab. That
was great.
Rossi, do you at least see humor in Sean's vomiting?
That was probably the only good thing they did, so.
The only good thing they do is getting sick.
Works for me.
Jared, Brett and Sean, are you loving the vomiting?
I am. I'm surprised that he kind of held out as long as he did. I thought for sure at the fish market he would have gone, and then while they were grinding the chilies, surely there was a moment there for him to vomit as well. So I'm just wondering if there's a quota of the amount of vomiting they can put in per episode, and they're just like leaving other parts out.
Yeah, I really thought that the fish would have done it for him, because of all things, you have the fish, you have the chili, and he's vomiting in the slowest moving vehicle I've ever seen. I mean, there's no reason for him to be getting car sick in that thing. Great scene regardless. Brent and Sean are just stars in every episode now, as far as I'm concerned. So we get to the turban tying roadblock where they just tie 3 different styles of turban. And again, Opie's nervous because he's never done it before.
Don't do turban.
This man doesn't do anything. It's miserable to watch him. I'm trying to be positive.
He lives a very boring life, Opie.
Yeah, I really just wish we were talking about this last week, that I just wish that Simi had another partner that she could do this with, because I really think Simi would be great on her own, but her dad's just dragging her down, poor thing. The detour, again, you would have thought just tying turbans was a little bit boring, but there was one part of this I really liked. Noah, what did you think of the turban tying roadblock?
Yeah, it was quite boring, but there was definitely some funny interactions there, I think. Who was it that... we've got it here written in our group here. Hello, I'll be wrapping your head today. Who said that? Because that was really funny. I think it was Sean, was it? I can't quite remember.
Sean was all over this one.
Yeah,
even Opie had a bit of humor in this one. He's like, I'm going to make you a lovely turban. I don't even know. He was getting really into it for a second.
I think Opie was really funny, although more cringe funny when he finished the detour and was running around like a madman. That was pretty funny. It wasn't that entertaining. I really loved the guy running it. I thought he was great. Trolling the teams. I thought he was good. But again, it was just not that exciting. It would be very hard, I'm guessing, but just wrapping people's head. Like, it would be better if I had to do it on their partner, I think. That would have made it more interesting. I'm not sure if they're allowed to do that if they're females or something like that. I'm not sure, but I think that would have made it more interesting. But yeah, not really a lot here. Just a few funny moments, but not that exciting, especially compared to last week.
Well, that brings up another interesting point about like cooperation in these things, because we know that the partner's not allowed to help in any way, not even allowed to say you're doing it wrong. But how was Simi able to get away with repeatedly saying, "Dad, read the clue"? Like,
yeah, I was thinking,
was that any different than her saying you're?
I've got this.
Yeah, he just doesn't get it. He's like, no, you're not getting it.
He doesn't do read the clues.
I don't read clues, Simi.
Yeah.
Rossi, did you like the turban tying challenge?
Besides some moments between Sean greeting them and some Opie failing, there was nothing exciting about it.
The judge wasn't exciting? That guy was the most excitable human being ever.
Him. He got the episode title this week.
Which was the episode title?
Grab your clue and go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that Redney did. It's like, you did it! And then he's like, it's like, take this clue and go! Like, he's so excited. I love this guy. I wish that he would have been the pit stop greeter this week.
I wonder if they have their own version of The Amazing Race, because they all seem quite into it in India. Like, a lot of the times when they're in, like, Kenya or something, they have no idea what's happening. They're just going along with the ride. But these people seemed very excited to be on television.
Yeah, I don't see anything about An Amazing Race in India, but, I mean, it could be one of those shows that they get there. Or maybe they're just, I mean, most Indian people I've met are, like, very cheerful and very friendly. There's tons of them here in Winnipeg, so it could just be the demeanor of the people. Jared, we don't want to...
They didn't just go to Winnipeg then, like in the first season. We're going to Chinatown.
Yeah.
They mixed it up a bit. They could have just went to Winnipeg.
Oh, there's every single neighborhood in Winnipeg is basically another town. You have Chinatown, you have Little Italy, you have areas with heavy Indian people, heavy Filipino. It's all over the place. Every area is like their own country here. Jared, we don't want to forget you. What did you think of the turban tying?
I thought it was good. I think it was interesting how a lot of the teams kind of regretted their decision on who they picked to do it as soon as the detour started. But I mean, that's kind of always going to happen with Simi and Opie, because what challenge are you meant to put him in? Yeah, it was good. I felt sorry for the people who actually had to sit there and get the turbans put on their head, because obviously nobody really knew what they were doing, and I imagine it would have been quite painful. But I thought there was some sort of smart moments too. I thought Juno with the whole kind of, I'll just do kind of one wrap and then get the guy to hold it and then sort of go back and watch the demonstration and then kind of do the next bit. I thought that was a really smart way to approach the challenge.
I can't remember who it was. It was either Opie or Sean. One of them, when you had to twist the turban, they pulled it right over the guy's eyeball and they tied it really tight. And I was looking at this, I'm like, this guy's gonna like burst a blood vessel in his eye or something. Like, I agree with you. I feel bad with him. Yeah, I was mummifying the guy. But yeah, I thought this was totally made up for it with the judge they had on the challenge. We've had some boring judges, but this guy was, I think for the most part, we've had some good ones on the Canadian version, but this guy really was the star. After this, they have the detour. So they go to another market and they choose between Spice It and Slam It. And Spice It's basically grinding chilies into pepper or chile, depending on where you're pronouncing it from. And Slam It is, of course, every team gets to have their one free pass. It's wrestling in the mud. It's not even mud. It isn't mud like with water. This was like dirt wrestling. I wouldn't even consider it mud wrestling. So standard question, Noah, which one would you take? Which one did you enjoy watching more? General thoughts on the detour?
I would do the chili one because I would be pathetic at the wrestling thing. But the wrestling was probably more... Actually, it wasn't very interesting at all, if I'm being honest. It was... They learnt the poses and they all did them, and Dujon and Lalani got one wrong in the middle, and that was it. So maybe not that was more interesting. The Spice wouldn't have been interesting if it was just like the two teams in the lead were doing it or something, but because there was a bit of a drama with they're the last two teams, or so we thought, and this will be a race to the end. That's where the entertainment came from. Like, who can grind their chili peppers fast enough? And I liked the editing when Brent and Sean had it, and it made it look like it would be on like 98, and then 99. No,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then tick over it. That was good. So I think the Spice one was probably more interesting to watch because there was a bit of tension there, and they were actually racing against the clock. Yeah, the wrestling wasn't that good. We got to see Leilani go into beast mode again with her wrestling, which was fun. I always loved Leilani beast mode. Yeah, although Nick and Matt kind of broke the trend because I thought it was like the one rule in the Amazing Race Canada is if your profession comes up, do not do that one because you're going to suck at it.
Exactly.
Between Nick the soccer player and the hockey girls, and I think we've had a few other ones. Brian and Cynthia, rest in peace. They're, well, they're not dead, but Brian and Cynthia's policing where they were like last or second last to come out of it. So Nick and Matt kind of broke the trend with doing your profession on the race, although I guess maybe it's more of a hobby for them, so that might be what it was there. But yeah, I wasn't in love with either of those two ones, to be honest. There was some entertaining moments, but compared to the rest of the season, they were quite boring, D2, especially because they're on location.
I thought that there were a few good moments to the chili one, but the wrestling one, this is one of those things where it would have gone better if you had a limit on, again, I've been saying this almost every week, but when they do that thing where they have the limit on how many teams can perform at a detour, because this is the type of challenge like, you know, the Kama Sutra one last week or the dancing one where it's really going to be entertaining if you have teams like Simi and Opie that have to do it. Or do this as a roadblock even. It's just, you had the right teams doing it, so there really wasn't anything there.
But Opie doesn't do wrestling.
His back. I mean, how does this man function? He's got something that
don't
prohibits
have a good back.
Oh man, Opie's becoming a bit of a character, but again, kind of unintentionally,
For the wrong
I think.
reason.
Yeah, for the wrong reasons. Rossi, which detour would you take? Which one did you enjoy more? General thoughts?
Do Spice. Neither were interesting. Leilani is the Canadian equivalent of Rochelle with the beast mode. And the wrestlers got a wrestling challenge. Only fair because the dancers got a dancing challenge.
A couple of them.
Yeah, so hopefully Simi and Opie get, well, doesn't matter. Opie can't do anything.
Sitting on the couch challenge.
The staying at home challenge, perhaps.
How about an I can't do it challenge? How many times can you say I can't do it in the course of 60 seconds? Something up his alley. Jared, same question to you.
I definitely would have picked Spice. I think lifting somebody would have been difficult in the wrestling. Yeah, I thought this kind of the same thing. I think they were both fairly boring. I did like that they were very different from one another. So that's always good when you have a detour. And I did just love the fact that Simi and Opie even went to the wrestling. I'm like, what? Their choices. Every week they make these choices. And I'm like, what are you even thinking? Like when they went to the swimming challenge that time, the synchronized swimming, I know like there were limited spots, but I'm like, why would you even like try that? Yeah, and them at the wrestling, I was like, why are you here? Like, surely when they read that clue, they're like, wrestling or like grinding spices. We'll go and grind some spices. And just, you could tell straight away that they would not be able to get it. Similar to everybody else, Leilani was kind of a highlight of that challenge. I wish that they had kind of made them go through the whole set and then kind of been like, no, you got number 3 wrong, instead of doing it kind of like one by one and being like, yes, number 3 is wrong, so now you have to start again.
That's what I thought, yeah.
That would have kind of made it a bit more difficult, or if they didn't tell them where they went wrong, then at least the challenge might have gone on a bit longer and there might have been sort of a bit more suspense in the whole wrestling side of things. But yeah, overall I think they were both pretty boring, but like I don't know what they would have done instead, so I was okay with it.
Again, as I said, I'll say it again, I think that you just had the wrong teams doing this. I would have loved to have seen Simi and Opie at least have to try this once. Brent and Sean, that would have been great. The Spice one did have some entertaining moments. Again, I hate to sound like I just keep picking on Opie, but like whenever he does something really stupid, it just makes me laugh. And I'm not saying
And there's
he's
lots
stupid.
of sound effects, like ding,
Yeah,
every time he does things.
When he
Still.
blew on the spices, like, why was he doing that? Did anybody catch why he blew on the spices?
Well, he was trying to get the big bits out of it, but wouldn't that just make it go everywhere?
Okay, the
And
big
then it's
things
like,
have
we need water, we need water.
the big things have weight to them, though. Like, was he not thinking, if you blow on it, it's the small things that are going to fly everywhere? Then the look on his face, I wish we could just get a screenshot just to put up, and maybe just become my new profile pic, because the man looked like he had a seizure after he inhaled these chili peppers. Like, it was so funny, and I probably shouldn't be laughing at it, but favorite Simi and Opie moment of the season so far is him inhaling chili peppers and going into a seizure. I
Well, we're
loved
going to
it.
have to use that for the Brian and Cynthia of the week then.
Now we could do Simi not even Simi. We'll do the Opie's unintentionally funny moment of the week. That's what we'll replace Brian and Cynthia moment
Or
of the week.
OP's one moment of the season.
Opie's complaint of the week.
Well, we probably won't only have one more week to do it. So.
And again, we had to hear Opie say, "We've never wrestled before." Like, why are you telling us at this point? We pretty much assume everything you do that you haven't done, but
He's
furthermore,
ground spices before, apparently, because they didn't let us know that.
But like, it's the fact that, okay, we're going to assume Sim and Opie have never done any of these things, but this is a wrestling challenge. Do you really think that this father wrestled his daughter a lot growing up? It's like, we've never wrestled before. Like, I think it's assumed with you guys. I don't know if we need the commentary every week. I'm going to agree with everybody, though. I even wrote in my notes. My notes actually just, like, long past when I'm noting what the detour is, I just have a note that says, these detours are boring. Not through any fault of, well, they should have picked something more interesting. I just think this is something that would work really well when you have more teams. And when you have teams that are all spaced apart and they're doing it. I mean, one thing I did like in this episode, I want to get some opinions on, is the rivalry we're getting between Gino and Jesse and Nick and Matt, because I thought that brought some excitement to this episode. It was pretty clear who the last place team was going to be this whole week. You know, not as clear as anything season 26 US version, but the fact that they put a lot of those moments in here of Nick and Matt saying, we really want to get number one, and Gino and Jesse saying, we have to, if we finish this quickly, we can beat Nick and Matt. And even Nick and Matt, where Simi and Opie showed up second or something, and they're like, we were kind of hoping it took you longer. Like, that really helped the episode, and I think it's something that maybe some other seasons should look at, that when you get down to 4 or 5 teams, and it is going to be a little bit obvious, start building up the rivalry for first. Noah, did you like this whole rivalry?
Well, firstly, I thought you were talking about the rivalry between Simi and OP and Brent and Sean. I was about to say that I don't know if that's a rivalry, but yeah, it kind of reminds me of, I think it's season 9, BJ and Tyler versus what are they? Bert and Ernie, whatever their name is.
Bert and Ernie.
The frat bros. I can't remember their names.
Rossi, you're our expert here. Who's he talking about? Bert and Ernie?
I don't know.
The guy who came back to win the next one, or the All Stars one with his girlfriend.
Jeremy. It was Eric or Jeremy?
Yeah, well,
Eric it was Eric and Jeremy. Yeah.
Yeah, BJ and Tyler versus them. They set up this rivalry throughout the later episodes, and then of course they both ended up in the finals. So I think they're going to set that up. Like, I would be very confident in saying that those two teams make the finals, or at least the final 4, because I guess they need to build up some sort of drama, especially racing to the first spot. So I like it, but I'm not sure if it actually exists or if it's kind of manufactured and they're just taking, like, if Gino and Jesse or Jesso and Jeannie really said, yeah, we need to get Nick and Matt, Dujon and Lalani, Brent and Sean, Simi and Opie out, and then they just edited it to make it look like there's rivalry. So I'm not sure if it's actually real or manufactured, but I guess it adds another layer to it.
Yeah, that's what I found really interesting about it, is that this could just be something they're doing to make the show more interesting, but I think it really worked in this episode. Rossi, what do you think about the rivalry that they're building?
I don't know, because the last notable rivalry I can remember was the one they tried to bring between Misty and Jim and the cyclists.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of fizzed out as the cyclists went in either 5th or 6th place. So
What about the rivalry between Blair and Haley?
And they
it
both
was a real
finished
shock
third.
elimination when Haley went in 5th and Blair made the final
Blair made
leg.
the final.
But I just don't know if these are going to be the two teams racing to the end, or is it going to be one team goes out before and then the other goes to the end and probably would win.
I was thinking the same thing where you're saying, Rossi. This reminded me a little bit of the dentists versus the cyclists. But that rivalry worked too. Even though we didn't see it in the finals, that's another thing I think is good about this. Jared, do you have any opinions on this? Do you think that this is something that could just be teasing for a dramatic exit in 4th place for somebody, or is this something that should probably go all the way to the end?
I think it has a lot of potential to stay around, although I think we may get kind of an immediate payoff next episode with a double U-turn. Like, I'm pretty sure that whichever one of those teams is first is going to U-turn the other. But yeah, I thought it was good. I rather the rivalry between Gino and Jesse and Brent and Sean, but we haven't seen that for a while. Just because that's more of
Body
a
doubles.
Yeah, it's just more of a mismatch, and it's funnier than the whole, I suppose, really competitive rivalry between them and the wrestlers.
We start checking in at the pit stop here, and we meet. At this point, we're just considering any random person, another one of John's girlfriends. So John's India girlfriend here, who I'm not just saying that because did anybody else find it weird that other than Alex Trebek, she's the only one who's been allowed to talk to the teams? She asked them a question.
John kind of slapped her when she did.
He went all James Bond 1960s, 1970s on her and just slapped her.
Just a little tap on the side when she starts talking. You're not supposed to talk. So she didn't really have anything enlightening to say. So I don't know.
I mean, she's like, in one word, or the one word or one phrase, in one word, sum up to me what this race has meant to you. I'm like, why are you airing this?
In one word, why are you talking to me?
Yeah, what if John just had those snarky responses? In one word, sum up this race. Like, in one word, why don't you shut up?
It'd be no words. But
it's good that we can actually remember her for something, I guess, because we had a couple of good pit stop greeters, but for the most part, it's been pretty disappointing this season, I felt. First place team, we teased it. The battle's been going on for Nick and Matt versus Gino and Jesse, and Nick and Matt finally come in first. So I believe that leaves only one team that has not come in first, and unless this is pretty much a repeat of Season 1 of The Amazing Race Canada, Simi and Opie probably won't come in first. But let's talk first about Nick and Matt. I thought this was the best episode they've had in a while, not just because of their placing, but just based on entertainment. I thought they were really funny in this episode. Noah?
Yeah, they're the only one team who hasn't come first now, so it's kind of an even spread season compared to the hockey girls. But yeah, I think they're not my favourite team, but it would have made a great story if they were always coming second and third and so close, and then on the final leg they finally pull through and come first. So close but no cigar until the end. That would have been an interesting story. I'm not the hugest Nick and Matt fan, but they did do well this week. It helped having a wrestling challenge. I think they're true contenders for the win. They could easily win another leg next week. So I guess it was a long time coming, but you always felt they were going to eventually win one.
Rossi?
I'm hoping for, well, you never know, because both seasons of the Canadian, the team that won never won until that last leg. Mm-hmm. So maybe Siminoping can pull out the win this time. Now that
if that happens, I'm not watching season
4. Jared.
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think it was a really good episode for them in terms of entertainment value. I think they needed it. They'd kind of been not invisible, but I suppose a little bit more off the radar in the last couple of weeks, and not having kind of those small funny moments. And I think just finishing in first, it kind of gave them a bit more screen time and a chance to just have some small moments in there. It probably helps that Brian and Cynthia are gone, so there's more room for other teams to make funny remarks that stand out because nobody could compete with Brian and Cynthia. So a good episode for them.
Second place, the second part of the rivalry, Gino and Jesse bounced back from nearly being eliminated last week. Noah?
They've always been that middle team for me. I thought I would hate them, but they've definitely got some entertaining moments. I'm just really hoping that they don't win, because it would be too similar to last season and kind of the season before in that they're male, but they're obviously a better team than the season 1 winners. So I'll be disappointed if they win, because it was too obvious, like the fit young, like muscle guys, kind of similar to last season, and we all kind of predicted they would go far. So I've actually found them surprisingly entertaining, but I'm hoping that they'll be out in 5th or 4th, because I think the finale will be more exciting if they're not there.
I don't know if I'm really finding them that entertaining anymore, because I think, I don't know if it was last week or the week before we talked about it, but I find that the more competitive they get, the less interesting they seem to be to watch. But I mean, they are that team where you just love it when they do come in second last and they're, barely holding on, I think. Rossi, Gino and Jesse?
I love Gesso and Jeannie. I don't know. I can't name a moment. I just enjoy them. I think they're not the team I'd root for, but I'm liking them, and I think they're good competitors, and they do everything in like 3 seconds. I don't get how that works.
Well, because they take the time to go back and look at it as they're going along. At least this week, that's what it was.
Well, Opie had it.
Opie finally did something right. Opie's not getting criticized at the end of this episode. Well, let's find out in a second. Jared, I almost forgot you. Jared, Gino and Jesse, or Gesso and Jeannie?
I thought they had a good week. I think they're a little bit less in your face this week, and I did like kind of that bit of strategy that was shown at the roadblock. A little bit less of come on G, let's do this G, whatever G, blah 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 G. There was a little bit less of that, and they're a little bit less hyperactive this episode. So I think that kind of helped boost their likability back up a bit more.
And let's move on to Simi and Opie here. Probably their most entertaining week, or at least the one we've seen the most out of from them. I don't know if I'll say most entertaining, but I think it's hard to argue that this is the most we've seen from them. So there should be some opinions. If we haven't talked about everything already, Noah, Simi and Opie.
I was about to butt in and saying, you missed Dijon and Milani. But that's what happened. Simi and Opie came third, which I'm not sure what happened there. Was it just traffic or something? And Dijon and Lilani really must have been behind on that wrestling thing. So they kind of made it look like Brent and Sean would be third. And then I was all confused at what was actually happening at the end. I can only assume traffic, but wouldn't it have been a much better show if they didn't show Dijon and Lilani and Simi and Opie get out of the taxis? Mm-hmm. Because then we kind of knew Brent and Sean were kind of screwed, so it would have seemed like a better editing choice not to include that.
I was going to say, I think in legs like this where, obviously there's a non-elimination. We're going to spoil it if you haven't seen it. I don't know why you're listening to this if you haven't seen it.
Most of us knew it would be non-elimination, didn't we?
Yeah, especially since we haven't had one this season. Technically haven't had one this season. Rossi, Simi and Opie?
Yeah, the editing of that was really strange because you get the shot where Opie saying, Brent and Sean left 5 minutes ago and we don't know where John and Leilani are, and all of a sudden Simi and Opie get there first. It was like, did Brent and Sean take the scenic route? Like, where did they go? And like,
their driver had to stop to clean the car again.
Well, they did not have good luck because their one of their drivers was like, "Do you want me to take the long way?" Or like, "No, just to the market." So I don't know what was going on with them, but it really confused me because I was expecting a Simi and Opie quote unquote exit, even though I knew it was not elimination. So it was crazy what happened.
Jared, Simeon Opie.
I mean, it was probably their best episode of the season, but I'm still just not invested in them as a team, and I'm just ready for them to go. But I just get this awful feeling that they're somehow going to stick around, and I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to sum it up. It's even when they have a good episode, you're not invested in them, or you're not really rooting for them. And it's not that I'm rooting against them; it's just they're the one that I'm indifferent towards. If they win, I don't think I'll be cheering. Whereas I think I could cheer for everybody else. Moving on to teams we could cheer for, Dijon and Lilani. They got to fight each other this week, and yet they didn't argue. That was a little bit of a letdown. Noah?
They're probably my second favourite team. A lot of these teams, they're good, but I feel like we didn't get the best final five that we could have got. I've always been a fan of Dijon and Lilani. They kind of get better and better each week, but they probably peaked. I would be totally happy if they won. I think that would be a great end to the season if we had a Dijon and Lilani win. I love Lilani Beast Mode, and they're quite a strong team. I'll be disappointed if they go next week. I have a feeling that they're a final team. Like, you often see this kind of younger male and female couple. Obviously, they're not a couple, but that kind of team make it to the finals. Although they don't always win, but yeah. So I hope we see them in the finals, because it will be much more interesting than seeing like an all-male like Nick and Matt, Gino and Jesse, Brent and Sean final. Like, well, Lani and Simi are the only females left, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, they're my second favourite team. I'm liking Dijon and Lani. I hope they do well.
Well, it's interesting because I'm not really opposed to the all-male team winning, because Amazing Race has kind of made it in recent years so that it's almost impossible for all-male teams to win, just because it happened a lot in the early years. But I'm always more bothered just by the couples, the young couples winning. And I didn't even realize this till now, but Brian and Cynthia were the last couple in the season, and they're gone. I mean, we're not even going to have any true couples in this, which is kind of interesting that all five teams are so different. You have siblings, you have friends, you have exes, you have father and daughter. That's something.
Are they even exes? Or
Well,
they just
according to
on an
them.
ex team, so they said that they were exes.
Yeah. Well, they've said it. I mean, are you implying that they just made it up to get cast?
Well, no, the producers have like made up things in the past. I've read, like in the US version, they said that this team was dating one time when they were actually just friends, a male and female.
You mean
friends.
season 26?
Yeah, that's a good point. They kept making up all these couples, so they were recently dating. No, like some season in the middle that I've read that they've made that up, so I could totally buy like they're just good friends or something, or they actually are dating. I don't know.
I don't think they'd fight that much if they didn't have some nasty
But
history.
when we learned they were exes, you would be expecting so much more fighting from them. So
Yeah. Well, they function well, but we do see the blow up last week, and hopefully again next week. Rossi, Dijon and Lilani.
I love Dijon and Leilani. They're great. They did have a bit of a quiet lull this episode. They weren't really the biggest characters, but I don't think anyone was the real big character this week for me. But they were good.
And Jared.
Yeah, I love Dijon and Leilani. I hope that they stick around. I'm looking forward to next week with this big blow up. I just hope that doesn't cost them the race.
Final team, and we already said it, but first official non-elimination of the season. Thank goodness. I mean, I want to see Brent and Sean in there for at least one more week. Noah, what do you think about Brent and Sean?
Yeah, this is one case where I was fine with the non-elimination, obviously because I'm a fan of them, but also because, as much as I can gather, they only lost because of traffic, so that would have been a bit of a kick in the balls from a donkey if they only lost because of traffic. So I think this is a more forgiving one, because it wasn't just like Brent and Sean were 3 hours behind and were sucking at everything. So I forgave it a lot more. Plus, I'm a big fan of them, and to see Simi and Opie make it further would have just been very disheartening. So I was very happy because they're my favourite team at this point now that Nick and Sabrina are gone, because I like teams that are going to bring entertainment, and they constantly deliver. There's never a dull moment ever with them, so it would be just quite a boring Final Four if you didn't have that team that was constantly delivering. So very happy to see that they're stuck around. I'm still not entirely sure what happened there. As I said, probably traffic, but hands down my favourite team. So happy if they won, but I wouldn't be upset if they didn't. I'd be happy if Dijon and Lalani won, but I want them in the finals. I think they deserve to be in the finals as an entertaining team. And providing there's no Final Four, then that means we're only having 2 non-eliminations this season, which is much better than 3, so that's a good thing too. But really a big fan of Brent and Sean. I think it's great they're staying around.
Well, I see that there's 3 episodes left here, and if they are going down to a final 3, that should leave us with no non-eliminations. So,
yeah,
I think
they're having a Final Four though.
Yeah, well, I hope not. They seem to do things right in this version. Rossi, you've given us some outrageous opinions on Brent and Sean this week, but anything extra to add on them?
I don't know if I should say it. I was really irritated that they started crying and
That was hilarious.
That's the entertainment. Anytime there's a breakdown.
His eyes out.
that was cringing. That was no, done. Bye. See ya. Wish they were eliminated now.
Oh, Jared, did you like the crying this week?
I did. It kind of reminded me of on the Australia versus New Zealand edition. I can't remember what team it was, but the New Zealand sibling team that had like a breakdown at the mat when they lost, and she started bawling her eyes out, and she just couldn't believe that they'd been eliminated. So it was good to get kind of a little bit of a flashback to that. I think they're a great team. I think particularly Sean. I mean, Brent has some moments, but usually it's just Sean, whether it's just his comments to like the people running the challenges or just vomiting everywhere constantly. I mean, that's usually the highlight of the episode.
Since nobody was eliminated this week, we don't really have any end game things to go through here, but I just wanted to get a really quick opinion around the room here. This season started off with 1 extra team, so we had 12 teams as opposed to 11, which at the time seemed like a lot for the first episode, but I think that would have been fixed just by a 90-minute premiere. Do we like it better that there aren't so many non-elimination legs, but we have that 1 extra team in here, Noah?
Yeah, I don't think an extra team is ever too much of a problem. They've done it in the US version, and then they eliminated that team 10 minutes into the show or whatever, which was a really dog act. I couldn't believe they did that. But then I think season 3 or 2 or something had 12 teams. So, like, I can't think of a team. Well, I could think of a team I'd get rid of out of these 12 people, but I think they all have their place, Susan and Shajid. But I think they're all good, and I really hate non-elimination, so to have just 1 and then have that kind of middle double leg is much more interesting than having 3 non-eliminations and 11 teams. So I'm definitely on this bandwagon. I think we should get 12 teams every season and just have 2 non-eliminations, because they just suck so much. I hate them.
Yeah, season 3 was one of the ones that had 12 teams I see here. Rossi, do you like having the extra team and the 1 or 2, even 2 less non-eliminations this time?
Yeah, I think it's good. It not only gets rid of the non-eliminations, but it also gets more people on the show, so I think that's a good thing.
And Jared?
Yeah, I think it's a definite bonus. I think I'm kind of somebody who'd rather have at most 2 non-elimination kind of legs in an episode, and I'd rather them be kind of continue racing, although I think this leg isn't over. Continue racing this season was handled kind of pretty poorly because they just bunched the teams straight back up again, which I think if you're going to do that, then if you're going to have a continue racing leg, then it should be kind of you've built this advantage, now keep building on it. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the whole speed bump thing. I think that's kind of one of the worst ways to handle the whole non-elimination. This is your penalty. So yeah, the less amount of non-eliminations you can have, I think, the better.
I want them to go back to you can only leave with, the clothes that are on your back and no money, and they have to raise money on their own. I really liked when they did that. I honestly don't know why they stopped. That was so much more entertaining.
Well, I enjoyed that too, but they need to pick when they do that, because I don't think it works to make them go around the poor streets of Delhi or wherever they are and begging people for money. So I think if they did it in the right places, like Winnipeg, then it's okay. But like, we had times when they had to beg in Kenya for money, and it was just like,
yeah,
I think it was a bit off. So if they timed it right.
I mean, Winnipeg, all somebody has to do here is get a squeegee and just stand on a corner squeegeeing windshields. That's pretty much all you get in my area. There's more people doing that than have real jobs. I just want to quickly throw out there the greatest moment ever with dealing with non-elimination was when it wasn't even non-elimination. The brothers, Brian, I think was Brian and Greg, what season were they in? 7, where they thought, if you could only leave with the clothes on their back, so they basically stripped down to their underwear and showed up and said, "We dare you to non-eliminate us, Phil." We could get some of that drama back. That would be hilarious. Can you imagine Brett and Sean just messing with John like that?
That'd be a moment.
Yeah, they'd throw up. I guess that's pretty much it. Like we said, we don't really have anything to cover as far as our predictions go because nobody's gone yet, but based on the amount of episodes left, we should have next week with an elimination. As long as we don't have a Final Four, we should have elimination the week after that, and then one more. So we're 3 weeks away from the finale here. And whoever's listening to this, stay tuned. Probably in the next week, we're hoping to get our preview up for the Amazing Race Season 27. Has anybody looked at the cast yet here? It just sort of came out today.
I haven't looked yet.
Rossi, you looked at it? You posted it, so I'm hoping you did.
Yeah, well, there was just pictures, so no.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jared, anything else insightful to add? Make sure it's a firm opinion.
I had a brief peruse of the cast. It looks okay.
It looks okay. All right,
and this will end the same week that starts as well. So
yeah, well, I guess 2 days. If they keep the air dates the same, it'll be 2 days apart, pretty much. So that'll be a busy week for us. So all those Amazing Race Oz fans out there, stay tuned and leave us your comments if you want us to cover more.
Just leave a comment.
Just say anything. Tell us that you can't stand Jared's wishy-washiness. Just tell us anything. That's pretty much it for this week, though. Noah, thanks for sticking it out for the whole 45 minutes here.
Thanks for having me. It was a pretty boring episode. Not the actual show. But I'm excited for the final run of the episode.
You just finish off. You're like, yeah, thanks for having me on this terrible episode of The Amazing Race Oz.
I'm not that bad. I'm bad, but not that bad.
Rossi, thanks for being the first one of us to actually watch this episode, I think. So you're very prompt this week.
Yeah, I had to make up for last week's watching while recording, so.
And Jared, great profile pick as always.
Thank you. It's just the best team this season.
Do you want to tell everybody, you let everybody know your profile pick last week. Can you tell us what it is this week again?
It is the wonderful team of Susan and Sean.
Crying on the mat.
Crying on the mat, because that wasn't an overreaction.
Yeah. So stay tuned next week where you'll find out what Jared's next profile pick is. Next week we are back to Canada. We're into Penticton, British Columbia, and will we or won't we see Opie in the water or anywhere near water? I don't think you can avoid it much longer. So that's it. Make sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, comment on anything at all. We really mean it, anything. And we will speak to you next time on the Tuck Tucks.